Hey everybody, my name is Stephanie L. Hamilton, and this is the Rise Above podcast, where I want to challenge you as women leaders to take the road less traveled in difficult situations with God. And sometimes that's easy, and sometimes it's really hard. And so I just wanted to give you a little tidbit today. I did this devotion at my church, and it's about offense. Have you ever been offended? Oh, we all have. We're human. We all get offended. I have been offended by pastors. I've been offended by leaders. I've been offended by my husband and my kids, and we're all walking through that sometimes, but sometimes they're a little deeper than others. So I was going to talk to you guys about that today. The definition of offense is, oh, by the way, this is based on a book called Bait of Satan by John Bevere. And he had a lot of great teaching on this. And this is kind of like my take on the book, but it is really powerful. So offense. Offense is an annoyance or resentment brought about a perceived, I like that word, perceived insult to, or disregard for oneself or one's standards or principles. So, sometimes it's our assumptions and our expectations that get us in trouble. And so it is all over the Bible. If you can't, if you say, oh, well, I've been offended. Well, I'm sorry. There's a bunch of examples in the Bible where people have gotten offended. There's the Joseph. Joseph got put into a ditch by his brothers. He didn't even do anything. And he got sold as a slave, and then he was in prison, and not once did he say, forget God, I'm done, goodbye, peace out. He really stuck it out, and he really, really still tried to pursue God and knew God had a plan in the midst of his struggles and his difficult situations. We can talk about Job. Job loved God passionately, and then all this stuff happened to him. And in the midst of it, he proved Satan wrong and said, no, I'm not giving up on God. You can hurt me, but you're not going to take away my love for God. So the one example I wanted to talk about was David and Saul, which is a really good example. David was anointed to be king really young. And Saul was king at the time and heard it. And Saul was just like, I don't know. Oh my goodness, no, I don't want to give up my position. And he started to feel intimidated. So Saul wanted David gone. He wanted him dead. So Saul hunted him down many, many, many times. And this one particular time is in 1 Samuel 26. And Saul found out where David was camping. And his camp and where all his soldiers and all his people were. David was camping. Saul discovered him, went down, camped next to him with his soldiers and his people. And David's soldiers and buddies found out Saul was camping next to him. And he's like, let's go get him. Let's go get Saul. Let's finish him off. He wants to kill you. Let's finish him off. And David's like, well, let's go. Let's go and see. So David gets in the middle of the night, get up, go over to Saul's camp where he's sleeping, find Saul laying on the ground with a spear on the side of his head. And David's buddies are like, let's get rid of him. Let's kill him right here, right now. And David thought, and he was just like, no, God has anointed Saul. He is in the position that he's in right now because God put him there. And I have no right to take him out. I have no right to kill him because God has placed him there. And the guys are like, oh, okay. But David's like, but I'm going to take his spear from him while he's sleeping so he'll know I'm here. I mean, yeah, he played with him, but he didn't hurt him. He didn't even hurt him, and Saul was after David and wanted to kill David. So, look at those examples. If you feel like you've been offended and hurt, it might mean to take a step back and kind of look at the Word of God and say, where else has other people gotten hurt before and offended? It's a good place to look. From my own experiences, I've been offended. I will tell you that I have been offended. Not that I really want to, because, you want to honor the people. That's one of my things I want to honor. But I will share kind of a similar example just in leadership. I had just become a believer and I was helping out at a Christian camp, and I was just surprised at some of the leaders that were with us acted certain ways that weren't Christ-like. And I was just like, like, I don't really think that that's supposed to happen. Like, they're not supposed to act like that. Now, it wasn't like outright, like clear and cut, but they were just being human. And so I talked to a good friend of mine. Her name was Terry, and she was a leader, a Christian leader. And she was just like, Stephanie, we were taking a walk talking about it. And she goes, Stephanie, leaders are human. They're going to mess up. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to have different expectations, different ways they're going to look at stuff. That's, I mean, if leaders are going to look at it in a way that's going to hurt someone or disrespect God, that's a whole other thing. But these people were just being human. And so she's just like, Stephanie, you're just going to have to know that this is what it comes with. Leadership comes with being human. And there's going to be no perfect leaders. And I remember that clearly. And I remember making that choice that I was going to just know that humans are humans, no matter what. I mean, But my encouragement to you is you can be offended and can't see it at times until other stuff happens and then it comes to the surface. Sometimes you're like, okay, I'm listening to this. I'm like, well, am I offended? I don't know. So, just spend time with God. It'll come up. And, there's a good scripture verse that goes with it that you can pray while you're seeking it out. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. Psalm 139, 23 and 24. If I'm offending someone, or I'm being offended by somebody else, So, we're all human. Leaders, ministry leaders, pastors, presidents, kings, queens, spouse, parents, we're all human. We are all not above reproach, except for the Lord our God. He's the only perfect one. So we can't sit and think that, well, that person is a pastor. No, he's human. He puts his legs one by one in a pair of pants just like us every day. So we all have stuff, junk, secrets. We're going to have repercussions from it. But who is our faith in? Who is the perfect person that we can trust right now is Jesus Christ. And you could even have offense from him. And the gospel is offensive. It's out there. It's calling us out. So, it's not anything new. And if you do have offense, you can bring it to God and say, man, you offended me. I'm so mad at you. And, the Psalms speak of David getting mad and hurt and not understanding why God was with him. So God's real that way, where he is just like, bring it on. Bring on your anger. Bring on your madness. I've upset you. I know, but let's fix it, So what can we learn? What if I want to tell you what you can learn from this offense? Okay. 1, wrestle with it. Don't escape. Don't run away. Wrestle with it. Pray with it. Talk to wise counsel. Say, would you be hurt with this? And can you give me some perspective? Because I want to learn from this. I want to wrestle. I want to think about it. Don't ignore it. By ignoring it, we're not being obedient. God has something he wants to teach us. Even Jesus was, and then, so we wrestle. 2, we're obedient. We give it, we let it go to God maybe, or we are obedient in our suffering and we walk through it. Jesus walked through obedience. Hebrews 5:8, we just read it in our Bible study today. Son though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered. Wow. He learned obedience from what he suffered. And once made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. He learned obedience from what he suffered. Jesus learned from what he suffered. He was obedient even in the midst of suffering, to follow God no matter what, to walk out this no matter what, to learn from it. Wrestle, be obedient, learn from it. You might need to adjust your expectations. You might need to ask God to change your heart, not the person's heart who hurt you, your heart. What does God want to change in you? What does God want to shift in you? Because you're responsible for you. Nobody else is responsible for you except you. So look inward, wrestle, be obedient, learn, forgive them. It's a big one. There are too many to count in the Bible where forgiveness. I mean, Jesus and Judas, God and us. We hurt God so much, but He's always forgives us. Always says it's covered. Don't worry about it when we come to Him. And when we forgive, we have to go with the fact that we need to go and ask for forgiveness with the right heart, not the "I told you so" heart. It's got to be the right heart where you're going to go in, where you've dealt with it with God, and you're going to forgive them. Now, you might also have reconciliation with them. Reconcile. There was a situation where I offended someone and I asked for forgiveness and they chose not to reconcile with me. And that I have to live with that. I have to have that choice and just say, you know what? I can't fix it. I'm going to have to let it go. So you may have to go forward, forgive them, reconcile with them, and then they may not be ready. But go with that heart. Go with the heart where you know that it may not work out, where you can reconcile. And the person might not even be alive, and you can't reconcile that completely with them. You have a death of a parent or something like that. But you need to yourself walk through that forgiveness yourself with God and to forgive that person. Pray for that person. If that person is it says pray for our enemies, pray for the people who've offended us. Pray for them. They're human. They need God. They need restoration, transformation, redemption themselves. And honor them. Please honor the people that have offended you. They're human too. Don't go and talk to a bunch of people about how this person offended you. Talk to one wise person so that you can honor them in the community you live in, the church you go to. You need to honor them, not talk about it to everybody. That can be with everything, Just make sure you honor them. So wrestle, be obedient to God and bring it to Him and wrestle and talk with Him about it. Learn from learn from the offense. Not like, oh, I'm not going to ever be with them. No, like be friends with them. No, learn from it. Forgive them. Reconcile with them. Pray for them, and then honor them. Now, if this person has reconciled, I'm going to go back to the reconcile. If that person hurt you and you don't want to be friends with them anymore, that's fine. You can set boundaries, but you can still treat them with love and care. Set the boundaries that you don't have to be best friends with them, but you can still love them, So it's okay. It's okay to not be the best friends that you were before, but that you can honor them and love them and pray for them in a right spirit, not an offended, bitter spirit. And last, somebody said a good quote. I need to look it up, and it is true. When we don't forgive, we're kind of saying that we're God, and we're going to play who gets to be forgiven and who doesn't. And that's not right. That's not our place. It's God's place. So we have to trust Him with our hearts, our broken hearts, our hurt hearts. And we have to know that He is going to be the one to reconcile it. So I have one last example. I was just thinking about it, and I wanted to share it. So we moved from California to Ohio, and the house that we bought, we could only see through pictures at times. And we saw something in one of the pictures, and we're like, And we asked the owners about it, and they're like, oh, yeah, we fixed it, don't worry about it. Okay, so we get to Ohio, and it wasn't fixed. And we were mad, really mad and hurt. and just like, man, we get this house and now we've got this big thing we got to fix on it, like cracks, and it just overwhelmed us and we just felt betrayed. And the thing was, though, is that these people lived in the community and everybody knew who they were. Even the person who did the inspection knew who they were. And I remember walking down the street, Isaiah was really little, and I'm pushing him in the stroller and I'm just praying. I'm praying because I'm mad. And I'm just going, God, I just want to, sue him. I want to hurt him. And that was the human side of me. But then I realized as time went on, no, this wouldn't be right. We want to honor these people in their own community. We'll just take care of it ourselves and just move forward and not wrestle, not play with that. And it wasn't really right out mean, it just was not consistent and it wasn't what we had thought. So, and it's okay. So we adjusted our expectations and we paid for it and we fixed it and we honored the people in the community. Sometimes you just got to bite that bullet and honor that person, in the community. Now, I'm not saying don't be a doormat. I'm not saying just take it. No, but you can work through the pain and bring it to Jesus and lay it at his feet and say, God, I'm just going to give it over to you. And I have interviews on here that you're going to hear in the future and in the past where, people have been through some horrendous hurts and they've wrestled with God over it. And God has brought them into a new place where they can forgive them and let them go. Doesn't make it right, but they have forgiven them and they trust God that God's going to deal with it sometime down the road. And it wasn't their job. And so I just really encourage you, friends, just to really think about this topic. Maybe even check the book out by Bait of Satan by John Bevere. And just know that unforgiveness is a sin, just like everything else across the board. It is. And he specifically talks about how important it is, if we want to be forgiven, how we need to forgive. And so just my friends, I hope this has been helpful, insightful, and just know that I'm always here to challenge you. I'm never afraid of a challenge. And I always like to be called on the carpet myself because I always want to honor God with my life and in what I say and what I do and how I live my life. I just want to honor God and glorify him. And if I'm not doing it, tell me. I just want to know. And so just subscribe and save and share my video if you think it's going to help someone else. Not because I want that, but only if you know it's going to help and challenge somebody else with this topic and encourage somebody in the messiness of the difficult situations.